I keep teaching everyone that crafting is for fun, it's something that you do for yourself, and I also tend to apply that same lesson for me, and that's exactly what I do when life tends to get away from me. I go for those satisfying, quick dopamine crafts projects that will make me feel better about myself. Welcome to Sorceress Crafts channel. I'm the Sorceress or Spigana. I learned to knit in the previous century, and these days I teach other people how to knit. This is a new video series where every month I sit down and look back at the crafts projects that I finished doing in the previous month. I review all of the patterns that I used, all of the yarns that I used. I'll talk about modifications that I've done for projects, things like that. I am aware that I'm quickly running out of November to make this video because today we're talking about October crafts. Life has been weird, or weirder than usual, and because of that, October was somewhat unusual crafting month for me. I haven't finished any new sweaters or cardigans, which is unusual for me. Instead, I've been doing lots of smaller projects where I can play with yarn, or that I can finish really quickly, that will give me that nice dopamine hit from crafting. And starting with a really fun knit that I had been looking forward to for quite some time, I finished my pumpkin socks. I started October crafting by finishing those. These are just Peachy pumpkin socks by Stone Knits. In this household we are quite fans of Stone Knits and all of her whimsical patterns and how she approaches sock knitting. I highly recommend her patterns. I'm a huge fan, and this pattern was no exception. It was so fun to knit. It was an engaging project. The color chart is really easy to memorize, so you don't really need to keep checking back, so it's also a fairly quick knit. I would say that this pattern has like a medium distance between colorwork stitches, so it's up to you to decide if you do want to catch floats or you would like to omit that. Both options will work completely fine, because for socks you don't really need to worry about catching floats all that often, unless you're in mood to catch floats, as I was, because I also used these socks for making some tutorials, and then I decided like, okay, fine, I might as well just catch floats for those. So this is what those socks look from the inside. You can see that I did catch floats very regularly. You don't need to do that for this pattern. But apart from that, this is what colorwork floats should look like. They should all be horizontal, neat, parallel to each other, not twisting up anywhere, just looking very nice. You do use 3 colors for this pattern, but you use only 2 yarns per each row, so there are no rows where you would need to hold 3 colors together. And when you are not using that particular contrasting color, you can decide if you want to cut it or do you want to carry it from round to round. This time I decided that I want to cut it, because I just didn't want to deal with 3 yarn balls attached to my project, because this was a project that I regularly took with me to D&D nights or when we are going for road trips. So those are situations where I want to make the knitting as easy on me as possible, and this was an excellent project for that. I did some minor changes to the pattern, so I decided that the rib, heel and the toe should be in the contrasting color, because I really enjoy that look and it's super easy to do it on this pattern. And I made the socks a bit longer. That is in no way a modification. You can knit your socks as long as you want, but I just wanted to mention that I did one more pumpkin repeat here on the leg, because I like socks like these sticking out from my boots, and if I did one less repeat the socks wouldn't really be visible. But because I wanted my socks a bit longer than is written in the pattern, I did make a small modification. For the rib, I immediately cast on as many stitches as I will need for the leg. The way this pattern is written, you normally cast on fewer stitches for the rib, you knit that up and then you increase before the color work. I knew that my socks will be coming up to this part of the leg where the leg is already getting slightly wider, so I decided that I will be immediately knitting as many stitches as I need for the whole sock. So while adding length by doing one more color work repeat is in no way a modification, I would say that casting on immediately as many stitches as I need is like a minor pattern modification. I don't know, I honestly feel weird about how many things people call pattern modifications when they are just like, yeah, you just knit the thing to your size. Is that really a modification? I don't know, but also I don't have really strict rules for myself what I would call pattern modification, so I don't know, maybe leave a comment. What constitutes a pattern modification for you? This sock pattern uses the short row heel, which is very common for stone knits patterns. I am mildly sad that I completely blindly followed the pattern because I know that the short row heels tend not to fit me as well. And the way the pattern is written, you actually reduce few stitches for the heel, so you get an even shallower short row heel. That doesn't really work for my feet all that well. Like, they fit nicely, they just don't. I'm just very nitpicky about how socks fit me, and I'm used to them fitting like perfectly. And this is just a very good fit and not the 10 out of 10 fit. What I forgot that I wanted to change about this pattern is that I wanted to omit those reductions and just knit a heel that's a bit deeper. Oh well, next time. To keep the color work completely jogless, I kept changing the beginning of the row, so I kept switching it back and forth. If I can avoid that jog in the color work, I will. I just simply kept switching the beginning of the row point, and I treated the chart as if it's not split up. I hope that makes sense. Eventually I'll make a tutorial for how to do that. It's a very easy technique. You just start your row at a different place. There is not like anything involved in that. Because I was cutting the contrasting yarn, that means I had a bit more ends to deal with. I'm not bothered by it. I don't mind weaving them in afterwards, but also for most of the sock I could just weave them in as I go. I have a separate playlist for weaving in ends. I show you how to weave them in as you knit. That's a really nice technique. I highly suggest that. But I think I haven't talked before about the fact for color work you can also start by weaving in the end of the color that you are attaching. So every time when I knew that I will need to start the green leaf, I started weaving in the green yarn about 20 stitches before I would need to knit the green leaf. And after I finished every pumpkin, I immediately wove in those ends as I knit. Actually, I didn't have that many ends to deal with, and it was no issue at all for me. And these socks got me so many compliments. I finished them right on time for our outdoors D&D session. It was such a marvelous adventure. We had so much fun. Rogue was DMing for us. I made a short video about it. It's on my channel. You can go check it out. Apart from my raven sweater that I finished in October, the pumpkin socks were the thing that I got the most compliments about on that D&D session, and I was so happy. Also, they kept me so warm. I'm just a huge fan of wool socks, and there is nothing better than fun YB wool socks. I used 3 different yarns for these, so I already had in my stash this amazing orange color. It's a drop snort. I had already decided that I definitely want to use that yarn for these socks, so I just needed to find the 2 other yarns. My initial plan was to choose drop snort yarns for all of the colors, but turns out my local shop actually don't carry them. That was a bit of a surprise for me, but I also didn't want to order these yarns because I was really set on starting that project then and there. So in the shop I just found 2 other sock yarns that both are fingering weight that I knew that would work for this project. So the dark grey one is just a generic sock yarn. There is no manufacturer on the label, there is nothing, so I can't really tell you anything about it. And the green yarn is the Drops Fabel long print yarn in emerald green. By the way, in the description I have linked the Ravelry bundle where I will have saved all of the yarns that I used, all of the patterns. You can simply go to that one place and find everything that I'm talking about right here, so you don't need to click through while you're watching or try to find it afterwards. The orange yarn that I used here is Drop Snort in colorway Rust. It's an alpaca wool and nylon blend sock yarn, fingering weight. It's a really soft and warm yarn. I enjoyed knitting with it. It's not a superwash yarn, so it also sticks to other yarns very easily, so that meant it was very easy to use in a color work. However, I have 2 warnings for you on this yarn. First of all, it felts really easily. It is absolutely not machine washable. These socks will be hand wash only. You can't put this yarn in washing machine. Second, it's not the most durable yarn out there. I'll be honest, I would not use this yarn for anything else but all over colorwork socks, because the colorwork gives you that extra durability that will ensure that those yarns actually survive some wear. On its own, this yarn is not durable. I wouldn't be able to wear it in any boots. I might be able to wear socks made out of this yarn, like lounging socks on my sofa, but that's really not something that I make. When I make socks, I usually want them to be pretty durable. I want to wear them in my boots. I don't like wearing slippers, so in the house I walk around only in socks, and that means that my socks need to be durable, which means that this yarn for me is only for color work. On its own, it's not durable enough for me to make socks out of it. On the H&S scale from 0 to 10, where 0 would be like touching a cloud and 10 would be like smashing your face into a hedgehog, I would give this yarn somewhere around 4. So it's not even that non-itchy. I wouldn't be fully able to wear it on my bare legs. I always will need leggings under these socks. Like my foot can be bare underneath it. Our feet usually aren't that sensitive to itchiness. But overall, I wouldn't say that this is a great yarn because it's soft, it's not durable, it's mildly itchy, and I wouldn't say that you gain a lot by this yarn being soft. For me, if the yarn is soft and we are losing the durability, there needs to be other features about it. It needs to be maybe extra warm, or it needs to be completely non-itchy. This yarn doesn't give it to me, so it's not a sock yarn that I would normally choose. I simply had it in my stash because I bought it before I knew any better, so it has been sitting in my stash for a very long time actually. So I can't really say that I would highly recommend it, but for color work, if you're always willing to wash that garment with your hands and not put it in washing machine, it's fine. For the green leaves, I use Drops Fabel. That's your normal run-of-the-mill superwash fingering weight sock yarn. It's 75% wool, 25% nylon. Nothing really special about this yarn. It comes in solid colors, it comes in short prints, it comes in long prints. Depending on the shop, they could be listed separately or they might be listed together. I have heard reviews about it not being too durable. I haven't really experienced that myself. The previous socks that I knit with this yarn held up reasonably well. It's nice to knit with, it's completely appropriate for color work, it's not heavily coated, so it still has quite some grip to it. It's not difficult to knit with it at all. It has a reasonably high twist, so it's not too lofty, too airy. I wouldn't say that it's not durable at all. On the H&S scale from 0 to 10, where 0 is like touching a cloud, and 10 is like smashing your face into a hedgehog, I give this yarn 5. So it's definitely not something that I'm gonna wear next to my skin, but also it won't really be itchy through other fabrics, so it's completely fine. And in fact, I don't mind my sock yarns being more itchy. Normally that's not really an issue for me, unless I'm very specifically looking for a sock yarn that I could be wearing in summer around the house without any leggings on, but that's like a completely different story. Those are like specialty yarns. And this is not a specialty yarn, this is your run-of-the-mill sock yarn, and that's what you can expect from it. Next up in my finished projects, I have an interesting case where I just made an executive decision to call this project finished, even though technically it's not finished, and it's my Children of Gaza socks by Zanete knits. I have only knit one sock that you can see here. You have probably seen it in the background of my videos for quite some long time. It has been finished for some months now. My initial plan was to finish this pair and then knit a second pair for my girlfriend. And my thought was that I will just put this sock on that I have finished while I knit on the others, and then I'll put something else on the wall. But the more I look at it, the more I think that it actually fits in here. I really like looking at it, and I think I can bring more awareness to it if it keeps being in the background of my videos. And it's also an easier way how to immediately signal my values, so when you open a video of mine, you get to see what I stand for. But also I had a conversation with my girlfriend. We both agreed that we even feel icky about wearing flags as socks, because there is that weird feeling that like, am I walking on that flag? And obviously keffiyeh is a meaningful headdress, so I feel even weirder about wearing it on my feet. I don't necessarily think that it would be disrespectful, but I also don't feel good about it. So I decided that actually the best use for this particular sock is to be a cherished decoration piece in my studio that appears on the background of my videos all of the time, and that's how it's gonna stay. I'm not gonna finish the second sock, I'm not gonna wear them as my regular socks. The pattern is Children of Gaza by Zanete Knits, fully free pattern. It's knit from toe up. It uses the gusset and heel flap construction, but as you can see here, the gusset is on the bottom of your sole. It doesn't go up here as you would more commonly see, and that means that when you are wearing the sock, the pattern isn't disrupted. So the gusset doesn't disrupt the pattern at all, and I really appreciate that for socks that are all over colourwork socks. Initially, this pattern was attached to a fundraiser. I think that the fundraiser has by now ended, but of course you can always make your own donations to Palestinians through any of the organizations that are trusted in this regard. As for the pattern itself, all of Zanete Knits patterns are really well written, but you have to account for the fact that her patterns usually aren't for easy things. So her patterns will be more involved, you will need to pay more attention, you will need to pay more attention to charts, you will need to pay attention to at which point of the chart you are starting to knit your pattern, because that will be different for each size. The pattern includes 4 different sizes for foot circumference, and then of course for the length of your foot you simply measure where you need to start the gusset. So this is a very inclusive pattern that will fit most people, and as far as I've seen, all of Zanete's patterns are like that. This sock alone took me 12 hours and 59 minutes to knit, so it's basically 13 hours to knit. That is quite a high number for me for socks, even for colourwork socks, even for beginning weight socks. It mostly happened because the pattern doesn't have like a very easy repeat, and you need to keep checking where are new stitches coming in, what are you doing. So that was definitely not a mindless knit, that's something that you need to keep paying attention to. Overall, I think the pattern is really clear. It gives you all of the information that you need for it, but it is an involved pattern, so I would definitely not suggest this for beginners. It's more of an intermediate knitting pattern. I used Alize Superwash Artisan yarn for this. It's 75% wool, 25% nylon, and this yarn is really slippery and it will expand quite a lot after blocking, but the really good thing about it is that it doesn't bleed at all. Like, I was able to knit black and white together and the white stayed crisp white, so that's an amazing feature for this yarn. I would say that it's basically not itchy. Obviously I haven't really worn these socks, so I can't really say that, but when I touched this sock to like my neck, it didn't feel itchy. So this might be yarn that I would be able to use for some summer socks where I don't want to wear any leggings underneath it. I still have to test it. I have no clue how it wears. Obviously, I wouldn't say that I really enjoyed knitting with it. It's very slippery, it kind of feels a bit plasticky, but I can definitely trust that this can go in the washing machine. It's a yarn that's really easily accessible to me. I have quite a lot of it left over because I was planning to knit 4 of those socks. So I think that sometime in the future I will knit more things out of it and then I can review this yarn more thoroughly. For now, I will just say that it's definitely not my favorite sock yarn. It's fine enough, but it definitely won't ever be my first choice for sock knitting. If you think that the pumpkin socks were a fun project, look at this thing that I made. I am over the moon. I'm in love with this embroidered piece I made for the bathroom. It's a cross-stitch embroidery. I used the pattern that I found on Etsy. It's called Please Don't Summon Demons in the Bathroom by Happy Little Mouse. It's a digital pattern that you buy and then you can immediately download. It gives you all of the color numbers that you need. It gives you a very nice chart and then you can just cross-stitch an amazing piece. I love cross-stitch embroidery. I've loved it since I was a kid. I recently discovered that I actually started cross-stitch embroidery way earlier in my life than I initially thought, because my mom found this little piece that I had made as a gift for my great-grandmother, and my mom has made me sign it. So I had made it in 1996 for Mother's Day. At that time I would have been 5.5 years old, and clearly this is not the first piece of cross-stitch embroidery I did. So that's yet another fiber craft that I've been in love with for most of my life. Sadly, as an adult, I haven't really done it as much because stupidly, for a long while, I only considered very practical things worth crafting. So as an adult, I haven't really done too much of like decorative crafts, and I really want to get back into it. And I have been thinking about how much I enjoy cross stitch. Over the past year, I have been working on a different piece. I had intended to finish it way earlier. I keep postponing it for different reasons. It's almost finished. You will probably see it in the next month's video. But for now, let's get back to this really fun piece that I absolutely adore. I made it on A16 fabric. I used 3 strands of embroidery floss held together. And this piece took me 24 hours and 54 minutes to finish. So I guess that amount of time kinda is one of the reasons why I maybe do cross-stitch embroidery less, because that is roughly an amount of time that I need to knit myself a very easy cardigan. So normally it's easier for me to start a project where I know that very quickly I will get out a wearable practical piece for myself, especially because lately I've been in quite some need to replenish my wardrobe. It's been getting kind of barren there, but that's a completely different story. Again, back to cross-stitch embroidery. I finished this piece in less than 2 weeks, and honestly this is one of the reasons why I only consider the time measurement in hours to be valid for any crafts project, and I disregard anything that's like, I finished this piece in 2 weeks, I knit this sweater in a week, this embroidery took me a year to make. Those are completely meaningless numbers if you don't know how much time was actually spent on it. So that's why I normally never tell you when I started and when I finished the crafts project, because it doesn't give you any information. This is one of my last minute Halloween crafts. I made a whole vlog about it. Most of you haven't seen that video, so if you would like to spend more time with me and Rogue, I have a really fun video for you on my channel. On surface level, it is about Halloween crafts that we did, but actually I talk more about how I approach crafts there, and I explain why I normally never pick up any last minute crafts anymore, and why I don't do strict deadlines on myself for crafts. And lots of you have been saying to me that you would love to spend like more casual time with me and Rogue together, so there's a video for you. I also did the same makeup for this video as I did my second Halloween makeup. This time my spider doesn't have a little handbag. If you want to hear more about the reasoning behind this makeup, go watch that Halloween video. I do think that it's a pretty fun watch. The pattern itself I really liked. I am really happy with the fact that this pattern gives you charts that are either split up in the pages for printing, or it gives you the whole chart together that you can use digitally. And because this pattern wasn't really difficult, I didn't really need to highlight the finished areas. I simply checked it on my phone, and so it was very nice that I can simply zoom in the whole pattern without any issues. It's not split across several pages. I will say though that the color choices for this pattern aren't really all that well matched from what you see in the digital pattern to the actual floss with those numbers that the pattern gives you that you will buy. So the blue bits are bit more contrasty than I expected, and meanwhile if I had stitched the green flames exactly as they are made in the pattern, they completely disappear together with those hands. Like, they are not distinguishable at all. So I had made some stitches, I realized that I really don't like that look. There is no distinction. I undid those stitches, which is a complete pain to do in cross stitching. I'm happy that I checked myself very early, because if I had done it later, I would not bother undoing those. And I just did the flames randomly. But I really don't have any major critiques for this pattern. I enjoyed working from it. I will probably eventually buy more patterns from this designer. She has very fun taste, and I vibe with that. In the September Crafts Roundup, I already showed you that I had started playing with knitting headbands. I knit one more in October. I kept with the same vibe that I want to hold 2 very different yarns together. So for this one, I held together navy blue hobby rainbow bamboo yarn and the same rust colored drops brushed alpaca silk yarn that you saw in those previous crafts. After you finish this video, you can go check out that video where I explain more about what I did here. Obviously the headband season is kind of short, so this is the last headband that I did for the season, and probably the last headband that I will do for this year. I am really happy with it. I wore it quite a lot. This took me an hour and 56 minutes to knit, so that's also one of the reasons why I have been knitting those headbands. It's a very nice, quick, enjoyable project. And by the way, if you are confused about me knowing like those very exact numbers for how much time each craft took me, I have a whole video about how I keep my crafts journals and why and how I keep time for them. Lots of you have asked me about pattern for these headbands because by now I've made a bunch of those. It's my own design. Currently I have not written up the pattern. Eventually I definitely will, and I hope that it will actually happen quite soon. But writing patterns, getting them tech edited, then getting them tested and publishing them, it's a lot of work, so I really haven't had the energy to actually work on any pattern writing, even though I do have plans for that. All I can say is stay tuned. This is definitely coming. There will definitely be a video tutorial for this. I want to treat this project as a pattern where you can look at my video and learn how to read patterns. So you have both the pattern and the video and you can compare, and I will walk you through how to actually work with patterns. And I think this is an excellent beginner pattern. But I need to size grade it, I need to write it up. It's a process. It will happen eventually, but you will have to be patient with me. I already reviewed the Drops brushed alpaca silk yarn in my previous roundup video, so if you're interested in that yarn, you can go check out the video. I don't want to keep repeating those reviews from video to video because it will keep happening that I keep using the same yarns because I have a highly sensitive skin. The yarn palette that I can use is very limited, and I'm not really all that adventurous with new yarns because it's really important for me that the yarns I use are wearable, and I can't really afford to keep buying yarns that I'm not sure if I will be able to wear. So that's one of the rules that I'm setting for myself for these roundup videos. If I have already reviewed the yarn, I will just point you to the relevant video and I won't repeat the yarn reviews. Meanwhile, for the Hobby Rainbow Bamboo yarn, I kind of feel like I can't review it yet because I haven't yet fully used it alone in a single project. I had started a really nice shawl in it, but then I realized that I don't fully like the color combos that I have chosen, so I have abandoned that. And so far I have only used this yarn in yarn combos, so I don't know how it wears on its own. I can tell you that it's a very smooth, highly twisted yarn. It doesn't split almost at all. It has a really nice color range. Hobby is known for usually having like good color ranges. To my touch, it feels soft. It will definitely not be itchy or scratchy. Obviously, this headband feels like just like the softest, squishiest thing ever. But again, I have the brushed alpaca in here. The bamboo yarn, by the way, isn't just pure viscose, it's a cotton and bamboo blend. So that's also nice. I usually tend to prefer those over like pure viscose yarns. It's definitely a yarn that I will choose again. For now, that's all I can tell you about this specific yarn. Have you ever woken up on a Friday evening after a nap with the most overwhelming need to crochet a hat? Well, I certainly have, and as a general rule, I never say no to myself if I have that feeling that I need to make something. If I need to make something, I will make it. Because if I get that feeling, it does mean I will feel way better after I have satisfied that craving. And so that's how this blue cat ear hat was born. I literally woke up after a nap with the feeling that I very specifically want to crochet a hat. So I went to my stash, I found this Scheepjes Stonewashed XL yarn that I already had used for my Staffen cardigan. I had a lot of it left over because I always make my cardigans cropped and then it's hard for me to gauge how much yarn I will actually need for the pattern, so I normally buy as much as the pattern indicates and then I'll just find other stuff what to do with the leftover yarn. This is one of the most satisfying things that you can crochet ever. I didn't use any pattern, but there are so many different ways how you can crochet a cat ear hat. It's a simple rectangle, okay? You crochet it, then you seam it down. For this one I decided that I wanted to do ribbing. Lately I've been really drawn to the crochet rib look because I've been making Linda Skuja crochet patterns and she's all about that you always need to add a crochet rib to any garment because it really gives that nice finish that you want, and I agree with her. So I started by that, and also it's way easier to freehand a hat if you can start with the rib, because then you can measure it very easily around your head. I used a single crochet stitch, and then for the rib you simply go through the back loop, and that creates this very nice vertical ribbed look. When I had enough width, normally hats I make with about 10% negative ease. That's a really good number to use for hats that will fit you very nicely. Then I just joined up the rib, and then I just did the hat itself in double crochet on round until I had reached the length that I needed. I mildly overestimated how long do I need it to be, and I think if I undid this and took away like 1 or maybe even 2 rows, it would fit me nicer. And also I think that I actually do need to sew down those ears. Sometimes they just look floppy or weird. Sometimes they look cute not sewn down, but I think that generally I will prefer them sewn down more. We'll see. This hat took me 2 hours and 44 minutes to finish. I finished it in the same night, and I was so happy with this project. I've been wearing this hat quite a lot. It's funky, it's fun, it's cute, I love it. But also this was just my first experiment, and also I do regret that I didn't make the brim foldable. So because the brim is kind of narrow, it doesn't really look nice when it's folded like this, and so it's not entirely the look that I wanted. Basically this was my first experiment. I fixed it for the next hats. Now, for the Scheepjes Stonewashed XL yarn, I have so many things to say. And I'll be honest, most of those things aren't good, which make me really sad, because I had such high hopes for this yarn. I spent so much energy just to get my hands on it, because none of my local shops have this. None of the usual European shops where I would order yarn have it in sweater quantities, and I very specifically wanted this for the stuff in cardigan. So I kept waiting until the UK wool warehouse would have it. I even subscribed to the email notifications so they would tell me that they have this, and when they finally had it, I immediately ordered sweaters quantity of this yarn for myself and for my girlfriend. So this is an Aran weight yarn. It's 70% cotton and 30% acrylic. The way it's spun together is cotton is all of those white bits, so there is white cotton base for all colorways. That doesn't change for any of the colorways. And then the 30% acrylic is the colored fluff that's spun together with the cotton. It makes for a very soft, pleasant yarn. It was joy to knit and crochet with. It's not splitty at all. I like touching it all of the time. I honestly want to smash my face in it every time I touch it. So it's not itchy at all. It's fully next to skin safe, and that was what I was hoping for this yarn, and that's why I'm extremely disappointed when I discovered that this yarn pills just insanely. And I'm not a person who normally cares too much about pilling. This yarn on my stuffing cardigan started pilling after 2 weeks of wear. That's insane. And it has gotten so bad that it's completely not savable, and I have stopped wearing the cardigan just because the pills make it look bad and sloppy. It looks like a cheap piece of trash, and I hate how it looks. Also, online, both on the yarn page and even on the Ravelry projects page, this yarn looked darker than it is in real life. Maybe it is darker for others, and it always looked less busy than it does in my stuffing cardigan. Like when I started knitting stuffing cardigan, I realized that it's so busy that it eats up all of the texture. You basically can't see almost any texture in this yarn, which is expected for a busy yarn, but normally with a stone washed effect yarn I would expect to see at least some texture and not it all get completely lost. And instead this is just way too busy for it. I had completely given up on that yarn. I didn't know what to do with that yarn that I got for my girlfriend. I didn't know what to do with these leftovers until I got that craving for a crochet hat. Hat is not a high friction garment, so I felt sure that I can make it. And when I crocheted this up, I realized that this yarn is probably made for crocheting. It's not made for knitting at all, and I should have realized it sooner, because Scheepjes as a brand is mostly geared towards crocheters, not knitters, and even the label is mostly about what crochet hook to use and not like what knitting. And in crochet I like the stone washed effect. So what I've been realizing is that it's probably a trash yarn for knitting, but I think it might not even peel too terribly if I crochet it up, because crochet stitches are a bit stiffer, they are more intertwined with each other, so there aren't that many places for friction as it is with knitting. But now I'm thinking that I will take apart that stuffing cardigan and I will try crocheting an everyday sweater with this, and I will see how I feel about that, because this color is really growing on me. I like how it looks on crochet. It's divine to touch. Like, it's such a soft, nice fabric. It almost feels like those hoodies with brushed insides. Like, it would be a delightful thing to wear, and I have been really sad that I don't have my stuffing cardigan anymore. So maybe that will save this yarn for me, but I'll be honest, I probably will never buy it again. And there are a few reasons for that. First of all, this yarn doesn't take wet blocking at all. Obviously, synthetics can't be wet blocked, but normally if the synthetic percent is so low in the yarn, it will take wet blocking. This yarn responds to zero wet blocking. For the stuffing cardigan, I did everything as normal. I wet blocked it, I spread it out, I pinned it heavily because like it's a 2-on-2 rib texture along other textures. So I really took immaculate care to really pin it down and shape it as I needed to. I left it to dry for a week, so I was really sure that it is dry. I checked it and I double checked it. Once I took it off the pins, it basically shrank back up. All of the rib texture came back together. It was like, it almost happened in the front of my eyes. I was so shocked. It's the first and only time I've ever seen a yarn behaving like that. And while that would be normal for acrylic yarns, I would never expect a yarn that has only 30% acrylic to behave like that. The good news is that it takes steam blocking very nicely, but then you also need to be very careful not to squish down and melt all of the fluff, because that's acrylic. And I feel like leaving white base for every single color is just lazy. It's not a nice look. The darker yarns are really busy. So overall, it's not a great yarn. Even though it's so soft and squishy and nice to touch, it's just not worth it. Sure, I will use up those yarns that I have in my stash because I just don't know what to do with them, and by now I'm curious about the crochet sweater idea, that like maybe this yarn works better for crochet. But overall, I would have better success if I just held together cotton yarn with a fluffy yarn. I would get the same effect, except I would control for the colors and I would know how the yarns behave in the end, and also then I could avoid any acrylic stuff at all. I don't mind a small percent of synthetics in my yarns. It's not a good yarn. There, I said it. It's not a good yarn. And I'm really sad because it's a famous yarn. I'm not sure how I have never heard any issues about this. Do other people never have had those issues? Are people only crocheting with this? I don't understand. What I do recommend though is crocheting cat hats. In October alone I have made 2 more of those. After I finished my blue one, I really wanted to make one for my girlfriend, so I quickly crocheted her a green cotton one. I have not sewn down the ears on any of none of those. I am planning to do it though. But honestly, I'm not entirely sure if I'm gonna do it for my girlfriend's hat, because when she wears it, she has the cutest little horns with this. They don't look like cat ears, they look like little horns, and I'm vibing with that, so maybe she won't get the ears. Then I realized that I don't have any orange hats that would go with some of my outfits. I got this very nice super bulky color changing yarn in my local shop. I absolutely adored working with it. This time I made a foldable brim and this is the best size I have made currently for myself. These are just such quick and fun projects. This one I did while I was playing D&D. Basically, I had not started it before I went to the D&D session, and then I finished it before we finished D&D. Also, it's a really mindless project. You don't really need to pay attention to it. You just need to make sure that you don't crochet it too long, and that's all there is to it. So this orange hat took me 2 hours and 17 minutes, and this green hat took me 3 hours and 22 minutes. Very quick projects. I'm really happy with those. And I still have enough leftover of this yarn that I think I will knit myself like a normal beanie out of it, because while this is a fun and cutesy project, if I want a more normal look, I don't even know what is a normal look for me. Bear with me. I usually don't choose those. And lately I've discovered that I actually prefer slouchy hats, and these don't really work as slouchy hats, they just look weird. So honestly, the discovery of October for me has been that I need way more hats in my life. I need hats that match my outfits, I need hats for bad hair days, I need indoor hats, even though so far I have never been a person who wears hats indoors, so I sometimes struggle with styling them. I suddenly like wearing hats. Who knew? Drops Paris is one of my all-time favorite cotton yarns. I keep going back to it again and again. I've made a staff-in V-neck sweater in it, and I keep living in that sweater. That is the sweater I keep reaching for all of the time. It's my most worn sweater of this year, and I will choose this yarn again and again. It's a staple yarn in my stash. My only gripe with this yarn is the color choice. It's not the best, but it still has some very, very nice colors. It's a worsted weight yarn despite what the label will tell you, and that is, I think, the stupidest thing that the drops have done. They don't label the yarns by actual weight, they just have few yarn groups in which they will just throw in mismatched yarns. And the worst bit about that practice is that they don't measure gauge separately for each yarn, they just slap on the gauge of that group. And Drops Paris is one of those yarns where the gauge on the label isn't actually the best one for this yarn. So on the label, the Drops Paris suggests you knitting with 17 stitches per 10 centimeter. You can get away with it, but it will be kind of drapey and very open. I would go with 19 or 18 stitches for this yarn, and I understand that 1 or 2 stitch difference might not sound like a lot, but I promise it actually is quite a lot in knitting, and you will notice the difference in your fabric. Basically, don't trust the label, treat this as a worsted weight yarn, and you will mostly be okay. I really love that this is a fairly tightly spun yarn. It's not splitty at all, it holds shape just divinely. And the fabric it creates both in knit and crochet is almost squishy. It's really soft, it's really, really smooth. This is absolutely next to skin safe yarn. And the main reason why I keep reaching for that staff-in sweater is purely just this yarn. This yarn is one of the biggest successes for me. It feels so comfy. Anything I've made out of this yarn, I can just mindlessly put on and forget about it. It won't overheat me, but it will also keep me reasonably warm because it's a thicker cotton yarn. So whenever I need to go run errands, I will reach for that sweater. I will lounge around the house in that sweater. I have even taken naps in that sweater, which I don't normally do. I'm very careful not to fall asleep in my knit sweaters, but in that one, honestly, there was no damage done. The yarn wears so well, it doesn't pill, it isn't fluffy. I have no complaints about this yarn. I don't know, just give me more colors of it. And the price point for this yarn is absolutely amazing. It's honestly one of the cheapest cotton yarns out there in the market. If you like knitting with cotton yarns at all, I would highly suggest this. And it absolutely can be machine washed. I knit this one in Linie 359 Fano yarn. It's listed as a bulky weight yarn. I would say it's on the heavier end of the bulky weight yarn. It's 53% wool and 47% acrylic, so it is heavier on the synthetic fibers. But when working with this yarn, I have still found that it doesn't overheat me as normally synthetic fibers would. In my yarn stash, I think this is the only exception that I make for synthetic fiber content percent. Normally, I don't go for anything that's higher than 30% synthetics. For this one I feel fine. It comes in huge range of colors, but for each colorway, the color changes are unpredictable. Even in the same dye lot, you will get completely different yarn balls, so the color pooling or the striping will be pretty unpredictable for this, which is something that I kind of enjoy about it. For this yarn, I don't feel any need to alternate different balls between the rows. When you look at the finished object, you can very clearly see that it's meant to be random. It is a single ply yarn, but it's spun kind of tightly, so it's very easy to knit and crochet with it. It wears pretty well. I haven't yet made any sweaters out of it, but I definitely want to. It's very squishy and very soft, and on my itchiness scale from 0 to 10, where 0 is like touching a cloud and 10 is like smashing your face into a hedgehog, I would give this yarn 1, maybe 2. For it being wool yarn, it's surprisingly fine next to skin. Clearly, I can wear it in a hat, and the forehead is one of the most sensitive places for itchiness, so this is clearly wearable next to skin. I am giving it 1 and not 0 because it has some texture, and maybe if I'm really overheating, or if like I'm walking at a brisker pace, I will start noticing it more on my head. So this isn't fully like an everyday hat, but I would feel very comfortable in a sweater made out of this. I don't really know how much it would felt together. I don't think it would be too much of an issue, but I will definitely try and I will report back to you. I enjoyed this yarn a lot. The colorways are really vibrant and really beautiful. They are really fun to work with because you just keep waiting what will come up next. And also I really enjoyed that it comes in 150 gram balls, so that gives you more meterage per ball. For this crochet hat, I used about half of that ball. I think I still have enough of that one ball left to make a knit beanie. So that is a really good meterage for a yarn, especially for a bulky weight yarn. And clearly in October I had discovered that I need more hats and that I like knitting hats. I also made a very Latvian hat. This is the colors of our flag, and I also did an embroidery on this hat. And for embroidery I used the motif from traditional Latvian crowns. The one that I used is a beaded crown. I just transformed it into an embroidery. It was a very easy process. I knit this hat in the Schachenmayr Bravo Big, which is a super bulky 100% acrylic yarn, which is something that I would normally never ever use for a hat or anything that I plan to wear. Synthetic fibers aren't breathable on me, they make me sweaty, they usually make me itchy. There was quite an important reason why I made an exception for this. It was emotionally important for me. At the end of October and beginning of November, we have massive protest gatherings because pro-Russian populist politicians have made decisions that would impact our safety and that would have potentially dangerous, far-reaching consequences or democracy in itself. They voted for Latvia to step down from the Istanbul Convention. If you don't know, Istanbul Convention is an international treaty that's basically guidelines for reducing domestic violence. It's all about protecting women. It's a really important document, and it has been proven again and again that it has made a lot of positive changes. So for those politicians to suddenly vote for us to step down from it and to cite the traditional values and protection of women for stepping down from that was deeply upsetting. So Latvians have gone out to protest. We've had the biggest domestic issue protest since the time when we renewed our freedom 35 years ago. So it was a huge deal. Obviously me and my girlfriend went, and because the populists were talking so much about our national values and how they are so patriotic for stepping down from that very important treaty for us, many of us felt that it's important for us to show up in more like nationally coded wear, because it's not for them to decide who is Latvian and who isn't. So when the first protest action was announced, I immediately knew that I want to knit a very Latvian hat. I didn't have any appropriate yarns in my stash, so I had to go yarn shopping. The only day when I could go yarn shopping was Sunday. That means that literally all of the yarn shops are closed. The only place where I could buy yarn was Home Depot. The only appropriate color they had was the super bulky acrylic yarn. I decided that I will go with it, and honestly it worked out very nicely. When you are just standing around, acrylic isn't all that bad. And even more so, I want you to take this as an example for protests actually working. After the first protest, they still went ahead with the vote and voted against what we were protesting. Next week we came together for an even bigger protest. The biggest plaza in our capital city was fully filled up with people. People couldn't get in the plaza. There were several protests in other cities, not only in Latvia but also in other countries, where Latvians were protesting in front of embassies, for example. And after that, the idea about us stepping down from the convention was postponed. And it is very likely that the idea won't be picked up ever again, or at least in the foreseeable future. So that has been a huge win. And that win after peaceful protests where Latvians came together, we sang a lot, as Latvians do. That has been one of the most positive things of October. The cause for it is clearly sad and really scary. It is always really good to see the strengths of community, and it's good to see the strengths of coming together. My camera just died. That was a mildly unfortunate timing for Schachenmayr Bravo Big. I really don't suggest using it literally for anything. It's so squeaky to knit with, it's squeaky to wear, doesn't wear well at all. Like, I've worn this hat 2 or 3 times, it's already getting like fluffy and not really pretty. It's really stiff. I don't think there is any good use for this yarn. If you can avoid it, just avoid it. Don't use it, but I also don't regret getting it. It served its purpose. Sometimes we just have to do with what we can get, and that's how it is. Thank you so much for watching this video till the end. This was kind of a very different video from usual. The crafts were kind of unusual for me. Next month you will be definitely seeing a new sweater that I have knit for my girlfriend. It's gonna be so exciting to see her in it. If you would like to support me making more videos like these, I have a Buy Me Coffee account where for the price of just 1 yarn ball, you can support me making videos like these. Not only do I do yarn and pattern reviews here, I also make knitting tutorials. I talk about how to think about craft, and judging from comments, my videos tend to be useful to you. But don't worry if you can't afford that. I truly appreciate you being here. Thank you, and I will see you in the next video.